Hello, whoever is there, I was just gonna check my deck to make sure it comes up properly. If that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your whatever you were doing. Oh, it just crashed. Just
Allison, we have your slide deck here too, if you need us to share it.
no, it's okay. It's just taking some time. It crashed, so I'm having to reopen it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start our meeting now as it turns out, and we'll get over to you in a second.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Thank you. So as we begin this meeting, I'll ask everyone to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices and remind council that our procedure bylaw forbids the use of mobile devices during council meetings. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. The Municipality of Brighton Council recognizes and acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, now of Alderville. These peoples agreed through treaties with the Crown to mutual sharing obligations and responsibilities as stewards of the lands and waters. We recognize that these are now our shared obligations in partnership to continue to protect the land and the water that we now know as Brighton. In doing our work, we honor the Indigenous ancestors who came before us and who continue to be present in lands which we occupy. We acknowledge and honor the First Nations who continue to hold and share their rich history, traditions, and cultures that are proud, modern, and vibrant. As we move forward, we hope that every time we gather, we acknowledge all those who have come before us. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Acting Deputy Mayor Rowley, that Council approve the January 15th, 2024 planning meeting agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Members of Council, do you have any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. That brings us to our delegation this evening. We have one delegation from Alison Bird, Earthquake Seismologist, Outreach and Liaison Officer, Natural Resources Canada. Alison, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn off my video just so that the presentation comes through clearly. I won't take too long, and I encourage questions. So I was asked to speak because we are going to be installing an earthquake early warning sensor at your location. The reason for this is partly because earthquakes do occur in Eastern Canada as well as Western Canada. I am in British Columbia, coming to you from the lands of the Wissahick people on Vancouver Island. And we're here where all the blobs are. But there is also considerable activity in Eastern Canada along Eastern Ontario and Southern Quebec with a history of actually quite significant events. And the data we gather does help inform the seismic provisions within the National Building Code. And you can see a couple of maps from that code there. And you can see from that.
Alison,
yes.
You are not currently sharing your screen.
Oh, what happened? Oh, sorry. I will go back. That's strange. I didn't stop share. Okay, well, let's try this again. There we go. You see it now?
Now we have it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Okay, so yes, they're the seismic hazard maps, and you can see that where you are is orange, which is not insignificant seismic hazard. So we do have, as I mentioned, a history of damaging earthquakes in Canada, including in the east, and including quite recently the Val des Bois earthquake. Although it was only magnitude 5, did cause quite significant damage. So earthquake early warning, I find, is a very exciting technology. It has been proven successful in several other countries, including Japan, Taiwan, Mexico, most recently in California, Oregon, and Washington. The system is triggered by the P waves, which is the initial jolt or rumble you might experience. Those P waves don't tend to be very damaging. So the system is triggered by those. The alert is sent out before the arrival of the more damaging S waves. That's the big side-to-side motion that tends to cause damage in earthquakes, and they are a bit slower. And I'll just show you how that works. It's a little video. So the idea is this system can provide seconds to tens of seconds of warning before the arrival of strong shaking. It allows protective measures to be taken and to dramatically reduce the impact of an earthquake. You saw that train stopping in Japan just a couple of years ago. They had a strong earthquake which damaged some rail lines. The trains were stopped. Had those trains continued, they would have derailed, and there were hundreds of people aboard those trains. So a very clear example of how just a few seconds can make a big difference. So the system has networks of specialized sensors. These are about 20 kilometers apart, high-speed communications via various means, multiple data centers because we want redundancy for resilience. We're using the USGS's software. It's proven effective, and also this helps with sharing data across the border. Particular interest for us in BC, sharing with Washington State, because earthquakes along that border region, we want to make sure we locate and alert for them accurately. Cybersecurity, of course, because we don't want anyone hacking into this sort of system. And this has a flow of alerts, both to the public and to critical infrastructure operators. I probably won't get into this too much, although this is a very typical installation. You've got the power manager and communications manager on the wall. Under the gray box, you've got one of these two sensors. They're about the size of a small lunchbox. And then under the black boxes are battery backup, so that the system can still operate when you have a power outage, which is very common when there's a major earthquake. Outside, there's a GPS antenna to make sure that the timing is accurate, which is required for locating earthquakes accurately. And then it requires about a meter square of space, very little power, but less than 20 watts, so like a very dim light bulb. And the communications requirement is less than 5 gigabytes per month if you're on internet. So it's a very, very low impact in terms of an installation, but these stations can work together to really make a big difference. The alerts are based on thresholds for magnitude, which is the size of the earthquake itself, and also intensity, which is the strength of the shaking. And so we will only be alerting for potentially harmful earthquakes. We won't be alerting for those that are very minor because we have thousands of them every year in Canada. Alerting to the public will be through the National Public Alerting System, which is currently operational for severe weather alerts, amber alerts, and that sort of thing. The distribution is through cell, radio, and television. I should have updated this. We will be alerting for magnitude 5 and above and intensity 4 and above in Eastern Canada as well as in BC. Alerts to technical partners. These are critical infrastructure operators, so like those rail lines, hospitals, places like that, and other technical users will be direct from our data center to them, and it'll be in a format where they can trigger automated response technologies. We're expecting this sort of alert frequency. Of course, we'll be alerting a lot more frequently in the west than in the east, but not too infrequently in the east. This is just an example of how a system like this might work. There was a second earthquake in 1988, which caused quite a lot of damage. If that earthquake were to occur again with this earthquake early warning system in place, Quebec City would get about half a minute of warning. Montreal and Ottawa and Fredericton would each get about a minute and a half of warning, which is quite significant. You can do a lot with that time. I should note that, however, that this is not an evacuation alert. This is a drop, cover, hold on alert, and I'll get to that in a second. If the Val des Bois earthquake were to occur again, Ottawa would get 3 to 10 seconds of warning, and Montreal would get at least 20 seconds. So this system is only effective if people and systems respond appropriately. So we need people to drop, cover, and hold on. You drop down to the ground before the earthquake causes you to fall. You take cover underneath something that's going to protect you, like a desk or a table. You hold onto it and cover your head and neck with the other arm. There are other responses to do in different situations, and I can get into those if you're interested. But these automated systems that I mentioned earlier, they can do things like open fire hall and ambulance bay doors so they don't get jammed shut. The vehicles can still get out and go and help people. Closing valves to protect your water source, protect the environment from hazardous chemicals. Having an alarm in a hospital so that surgeons know to stop surgery and secure the patient, and the trains and those sorts of things, as I mentioned before. Also, something so simple as parking your hard drive. So you're protecting your data, you're protecting your software. You can still be functional after the earthquake. So just to note that most alerts will be received seconds to tens of seconds before the strong shaking. If you're extremely close to the epicenter, you might be within what we call an late alert zone, where you will receive the alert after the shaking, simply because we're trying to outrun seismic waves, which are moving kilometers per second. So it's physically not possible to alert when you're very close to the earthquake. And then the opportunity for missed and false alerts is inevitable due to the fact that this is a system that is running automated and very quickly on limited data. So this may happen, but not very often. It's mostly very, very useful, these alerts. So just a summary that earthquake early warning can provide those valuable seconds to tens of seconds of warning for at-risk regions. This helps people and systems take protective actions and reduce the impact of the earthquake. There's that cross-border integration with the United States, and the system will be operational in Eastern Canada in the autumn of this year.
Well, thank you for your presentation. I will open the floor to members of council for questions of clarification on the presentation. You must have done a pretty good job. There are no questions.
I do have, pardon me, I have a note from our lady who has been speaking to, I don't know who there, but she's put together a draft agreement for Brighton within our CAN. We need to know who should be the person who's the signatory, and anyone else who should be a contact person for the work that's going to be done. That's all I have for you in that.
So you can contact the clerk's office or whomever she has been in touch with already, and they will be in touch with the clerk's office directly.
Okay. Okay.
It was the clerk's office, though.
Okay. I will let her know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Acting Deputy Mayor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Fredis, that council receive or support the request from Natural Resources Canada for the installation. Well, it says 5.1. We shouldn't. We should be receiving the Acting Deputy Mayor, Councillor Fredis. I'm going to change the motion to receive the delegation. Thank you. Before I reread the motion, I'll let Ms. Bird know that we will be considering the support of this later on in the agenda.
Okay. Did you want me to stay on then?
Up to you. I don't think it's necessary. If we do have any questions at that point, we can always ask staff to reach out to you.
Okay. But just for information, the power that these take costs about $60 a year. So it's a fairly minimal amount. And the communications, it depends on whether it's linked into your internet or if it goes on a dedicated cellular service, but we can discuss that certainly.
Thank you for that. So the motion is moved by Acting Deputy Mayor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Fredis, that council receive the delegation from Natural Resources Canada regarding the installation of an earthquake early warning sensor station at the Brighton Public Works building. Acting Deputy Mayor, are you okay with those changes? Councillor Fredis is the seconder. Is there any discussion on the motion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And thank you very much for providing us with the information this evening. And as I say, we will discuss receiving and or supporting the concept later on in our agenda. And you're welcome to hang on as we go through this agenda if you'd like.
Certainly, I'll hang on for a bit. Yes, thank you.
You're not obligated to.
I
We'll all,
might have to drop off. So if I leave, please don't take it personally.
we'll all understand if you do. All right, thank you. We move into our statutory public meeting with a motion moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Fredis, that council move into the statutory public meeting January 15th, 2024 at 6:45 p.m. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Municipality takes steps beyond the requirements of the Planning Act to engage the community in land use planning initiatives, including requiring developers to host information sessions in advance of providing the municipality a completed application. The municipality also holds a statutory public meeting on the planning application in order to capture comments and concerns from the public. Council will then receive a staff report with a recommendation on which council may make a decision. After council has made our decision, any person or public body may appeal council's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal as long as they have made an oral submission at the statutory public meeting, where the planning matter was heard, or provided comments in writing to the clerk's office before or during the statutory public meeting where the planning matter was heard, and requested notice of the decision from the clerk's office. This is also true of any person or public body that wishes to participate in the appeal. For details or information on appealing decisions of council, please visit the municipal website or contact the clerk's office. So that brings us to the first item in our statutory public meeting, which is a consent application, file B09 2023. The location is 1056 Stony Point Road. The purpose of the meeting is to address requirements under the Planning Act before council makes a decision on the consent. Mr. Warren, by what method and on what date was notice of the consent application given?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The notice of the subject application was provided by regular mail on December the 11th of 23, and all property owners within 60 meters of the subject property received that notice. In addition, all agencies required under the Planning Act were circulated, and a sign notice was also placed on the subject lands on December the 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. And would you please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed consent?
Certainly. The application B09 2023 is requesting a lot addition, not a new lot to be created, but rather a transfer of approximately 1/3 an acre from one property to a neighboring property, allowing the receiver of said lands to construct a new detached garage with an accessory dwelling above. And the benefiting lands are 1088 Stony Point Road.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Are there any persons present who have questions or comments regarding the proposed consent? And there are none noted. Are there any questions or comments regarding the proposed consent from members of council? None noted. Mr. Warren, do you have any final comments?
None at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Does council wish to make a decision this evening? I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Fredis, that council received the staff report dated January 15th, 2024, regarding consent application B09 2023 for 1056 Stony Point Road, and further that council give provisional consent to application B09 2023 subject to the following conditions. Each condition shall be fulfilled no later than 2 years from the date of the mailing of the decision. That an engineer's report be submitted indicating that no adverse influences will occur on intended development through groundwater quality impacts from the waste disposal site north of the subject lands before any construction begins. That construction will not take place within the 30 meters from the top of the bank to the satisfaction of the chief building official. That parcels of land measuring 10 meters wide fronting Stony Point Road as measured from the center line of the road along the severed and retained lands free of any encumbrances be convened to the municipality at no cost to the municipality for road widening purposes to the satisfaction of public works. Confirmation from the applicant's solicitor that the severed and benefiting lands will merge on title. The solicitor for the applicant shall submit an undertaking to the municipality to the following effect. I hereby personally undertake to prepare and register an application to consolidate parcels for those lands being the severed lands herein and those lands being the benefiting lands herein, and provide to the municipality the registered application to consolidate parcels as soon as possible after the registration of the severance, transfer, and designation of the new PIN to the severed lands. That subsections 3 and 5 of Section 50 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 shall apply to any subsequent conveyance of or transaction involving the conveyed lands. All taxes on each of the lots be paid up to date prior to the issuance of a certificate of official. A digital copy of a registrable survey for the lots and the appropriate deed transfer be prepared and deposited with the municipal clerk. The OLS indicate in writing to the Department of Planning and Development that no encroachments of wells or septic systems will result from the lot addition conveyances. The surveyor deposit with the municipality a geospatial data file of the surveyed lands parcel fabric with respect to the severed and retained lands submitted to the satisfaction of the municipality. The owner provides to the municipality a registrable description on a deed conveying the severed lands for use for the issuance of a certificate of official first consent. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Second item in our statutory public meeting is a consent application file B19 2023 107 Tillings Road. The purpose of the public meeting is to address requirements under the Planning Act for hosting a public meeting before council makes a decision on the consent application. Again, Mr. Warren, by what method and on what date was notice of this consent application given?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice of the consent application was provided by regular mail on December 11th, 2023 to all property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. Notice was also circulated to all agencies as required under the Planning Act, and a signed notice was also posted on the subject lands on the same date, December 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. And would you please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed consent?
Indeed, the subject consent application B19 2023 is requesting a severance in order to create a new residential lot on Tillings Road, on the east side of Tillings Road specifically. The purpose of the severance will be to create the lot and to build a single detached dwelling on the new created lot. The retained parcel has a lot area of approximately 6 hectares with an existing dwelling on it currently.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Are there persons present or who have questions or comments with regard to this proposed consent? There are none noted. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Councilor Rowley, pardon me, Acting Deputy Mayor Rowley.
That's great. It's fine. Thank you. Just one question. There was a comment in there regarding minor variance. Has that already been looked into? Or will that change the application if it's turned in?
Mr. Warren?
Through the chair, it will be a condition of this decision. So the minor variance will follow it for the slightly narrower frontage.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Does council wish to make a decision this evening? I have a motion moved by Councilor Freda, seconded by Councilor Butwell, that council receive the staff report dated January 15th, 2024 regarding 107 Tillings Road regarding consent application B19 2023. And further, that council grant provisional consent to application B19 2023 subject to the following conditions. Each condition shall be fulfilled no later than 2 years from the date of the mailing of the decision. Sufficient land be deeded to the municipality to the satisfaction of public works for the purposes of road widening of the road allowance as required to provide a road width of 10 meters from physical center line of Tillings Road across the frontage of the severed and retained land free of any encumbrances. Then an entrance permit is finally approved to the severed lot for the purpose of obtaining direct access from a fully maintained public road, and a civic address is assigned. That the applicant submit an opinion of a qualified hydrogeologist regarding the suitability of the proposed location of septics and well without adverse impacts to or from neighboring water supply systems and septic tanks. And a minor variance application is finally approved for the reduced lot frontage of the severed lot. That the owner shall pay to the municipality cash in lieu of parkland an amount equal to 5% of the appraised value of the subject lands to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning. That all taxes on each of the lots be paid up to date prior to the issuance of a certificate of official. A digital copy of a registrable survey for the lots and the appropriate deed transfer be prepared and deposited with the municipal clerk. The OLS indicate in writing to the Department of Planning and Development that no encroachments of wells or septics will result from the new lot conveyance. The surveyor deposit with the municipality a geospatial data file of the surveyed parcel fabric with respect to the severed and retained lands submitted to the satisfaction of the municipality. And the owner provides to the municipality a registrable description on a deed conveying the severed lands for use for the issuance of a certificate of official for consent. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And that ends our statutory public meeting with a motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Councillor Butwell, that Council move out of the statutory public meeting January 15th, 2024 at 6:55 p.m. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. We have no planning and development reports. We have no items for information purposes. That brings us to number 9, direction items, with a motion moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Fredis, that Council receive or support, and I'll look to you, Councillor Butwell, the request from Natural Resources Canada for the installation of an earthquake early warning sensor station at the Brighton Public Works building.
As long as my seconder's fine, I'd like to support.
Thank you, Councillor Fredis.
Yes.
With a head nod, that is what we will be doing. So the motion is to support, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any discussion on the motion? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Fredis.
To the chair, thank you. Just to clarify or confirm, it's a nominal sum for power and probably a nominal sum for cell data that the municipality would be paying for this station. Am I correct in that understanding?
That seems to be what was alluded to. Director Whiteman's on the line, and I see Ms. Bird is prepared to answer that question as well. So, Alison, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Yes, normally if we are connected to your internet, then we would be relying on you paying for your internet, and it would be a minimal impact on that because it's very low data bandwidth. If we went with cellular, I believe that we pay for that, but I will confirm with the people involved.
Thank you. Director Whiteman, I see you've unmuted yourself. Do you have comment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. I think Alison has highlighted that it's really minimal costs for, I think, a critical warning signal for all within Eastern Canada, Ontario, sorry.
Thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Thank you. That brings us to bylaws. Our first bylaw is the appointment of an integrity commissioner and closed session investigator, moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Butwell. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to appoint an integrity commissioner and closed session investigator for the corporation of the Municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? Councillor Fredis.
To the chair, to the clerk, I guess. In looking at this bylaw regarding the integrity commissioner, I noticed the term is for 3 years, which makes sense. And then it's 2 additional 2-year terms followed by a 1 year. So a total of 7 years. But we're replacing an arrangement with the integrity commissioner from 2018, 2019 to now. So it's 5 years. So I'm just curious why the change in term from 5 to 7.
Madam Clerk.
This contract was negotiated with the county, so we're just piggybacking on the same. So I'm not too sure why they have those clauses, but there is the termination clause in there too, right? So after 5 years, you don't have to, so you can do the 3 years and then you can do the extended 2 years. You don't have to do that extended other year as well. So you have that. So the new council will be in place at that time. And if they want to seek more RFPs, we can do that. We don't have to continue, but it's just an option.
Supplementary.
Just to follow up. Okay, so we're following the county and that makes sense. Presumably, and I'm making an assumption here, and perhaps I shouldn't do that. They get a favorable rate. Are we benefiting from the favorable rate that they might have negotiated?
Madam Clerk?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next bylaws with regard to the purchase of lands back to the municipality for part lot 34 Sharp Road. It's moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Fredis. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement of purchase and sale of lands, part lot 34, concession B, Brighton, parts 1 and 2, plan 39R 13598 Sharp Road, purchased back from B&H Carpet Sales Limited. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. And the next bylaw is another buyback from the industrial park. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Fredis. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement of purchase and sale of lands, part lot 33, concession B, part Brighton, part 1, plan 39R 14236 Sharp Road, purchased back from AAA Circuit Electrical Services Incorporated. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. The appointment of a deputy clerk is moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Councillor Butwell. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy clerk for the corporation of the Municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Congratulations, Ms. Pauley. All right, that brings us to question period. Is there anyone in the gallery, sir, who has any questions with anything on tonight's agenda? Thank you very much. And there's no one on Zoom. So that brings us to our closed session. I will read the motion to go into closed session, and if council approves the motion, we will end the live YouTube stream and we will not return to YouTube when we come back into open session. It's moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Councillor Butwell. The council resolve itself into closed session January 15th, 2024 at 7:02 p.m. Pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act RSO 2001 as amended subsection 239(2)(c), a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality local board, industrial park lots update, and potential purchases of land. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And we'll take a